My name is Omar, and I am 34 years old. If you had met me years ago, you would have seen a man who appeared disciplined, devout, and confident. But the truth is that I was slowly falling apart inside. I grew up in a conservative Muslim family where every step of life was mapped out, every feeling monitored, every doubt forbidden. From as early as I can remember, faith was not something you explored, it was something you inherited and obeyed without question. I prayed because I feared punishment, not because I felt any real connection. I fasted because it was expected, not because I felt closeness to God. Through my teenage years, I walked like a shadow in my own life, performing the rituals, repeating the words, but always carrying a quiet hollowness that I didn't dare acknowledge. When I married at 27, I thought responsibility would finally make me into the man everyone wanted me to be. My wife was gentle, respectful, and raised with the same unspoken expectations that shaped me. But even in marriage, I felt the same emptiness, the same anxiety clinging to me like a second skin. I tried to push through it, convincing myself that more discipline, more prayer, more effort would fix whatever was broken inside me. I buried every doubt and ignored every whisper that told me I was only pretending to be strong. By the time I turned 34, the cracks in my heart had become impossible to hide. I felt like an outsider in my own home, a stranger in my own faith, a man whose life was built on fragile obedience rather than true conviction. And still, I kept walking, kept pretending, kept smiling to avoid disappointing the people who raised me. If you're listening to this and you want to support testimonies like mine, feel free to subscribe, like, comment, and share, because stories like this can reach someone who feels the same silent ache I once felt. But nothing prepared me for the night my world shattered. I kept all my turmoil hidden behind a practiced smile, afraid that revealing the truth would unravel everything I had been taught to protect. Yet even then, an ache whispered that something in life was missing. My name is Omar, and I am 34 years old, though some days it feels as if I have lived far longer than that. I grew up in a conservative Muslim home where duty mattered more than dreams, and where silence was easier than honesty. From the moment I could walk, I was told who I had to be: the responsible son, the faithful Muslim, the protector of family honor. But inside, I was a storm no one knew existed. I memorized verses I didn't understand, prayed prayers that felt hollow, and nodded through teachings that never touched my heart. Even as a child, I felt a quiet hunger for something deeper, but I buried it because curiosity was dangerous. By the time I reached my teenage years, I had become a professional at pretending. I smiled at the mosque, bowed in perfect rhythm, and said all the right words, but the emptiness inside me grew like a shadow that followed me everywhere. At 26, I married a woman chosen mostly because she was considered suitable. At first I thought marriage would settle me, maybe even fix me, but instead it exposed how fragile I really was. We tried to love each other, but pressure was always in the room with us. Every argument felt like a test, every silence a disappointment. I wanted to be a good husband, but I was emotionally cracked long before she entered my life. I kept performing, pretending, hoping the act would eventually become reality. It never did. By 34, I was exhausted, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. I would lie awake at night staring at the ceiling, wondering why I felt empty even after doing everything I had been taught. I told myself to be grateful, to be content, to be strong, but the truth was that I was suffocating under the weight of expectations I never chose. If you're listening to this, and my story already resonates with you in any way, I want to gently ask you to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Not for me, but so testimonies like mine can reach people who feel as lost as I once did. I didn't know it then, but everything in my life was about to collapse in a way I never imagined, and the night it happened became the moment that shattered the man I thought I was. I had no idea that the pain ahead would challenge everything I believed about God forever. I remember the silence of that night more than anything else. It wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that swallows you, chokes you, makes you feel like even the walls are holding their breath waiting for you to break. When I walked into my apartment after learning what had happened with my wife, I didn't even turn on the lights. I just collapsed onto the floor, the cold tiles pressing against my face, as if to remind me that the world no longer cared whether I got up again. I tried to pray. I really did. Years of habit told me to recite the words I'd memorized since childhood, but nothing came out. My tongue felt heavy, like it no longer belonged to me. Every verse I tried to summon tasted bitter, like ash. For the first time in my life, my heart refused to follow the script. Why? That was the only word I could manage. Why would you let this happen? My voice cracked, sounding strange in the empty room. I had spent my whole life trying to be a good Muslim. I fasted, prayed, obeyed, tried to keep my marriage together even when it was falling apart. And yet, in one moment, everything I built was taken and handed to another man. A man with power, money, connections I could never dream of. Rage twisted in my chest, but beneath it was something deeper, more painful. The quiet fear that maybe I had never been seen by Allah at all. I curled my fists against the floor and let the tears fall freely. My mind raced with questions I had buried for years. Why did my prayers always feel empty? Why did I never feel loved, only watched? Why did I feel more like a servant than a son? The more I thought, the more the darkness inside me spread. If you're real, I whispered into the shadows, then where are you? Do you even see me? My voice trembled. I wasn't praying to Allah. I wasn't praying to anyone in particular. I was praying to the unknown, to any God who might hear a broken man drowning in despair. If there is a God who sees me, I said, barely breathing, show yourself. As soon as the words left my lips, a strange stillness filled the room. Not comforting, not frightening, just different. And I didn't know it then, but that desperate whisper would become the doorway to everything that followed. Then I had the dream that changed everything. I woke from the dream with a violent gasp, sweat cooling on my skin, as though I had been dragged out of a place I didn't belong. For a moment, the darkness of my room felt unreal, too sharp around the edges, as if the world I knew had thinned, and something greater was pressing through. I sat up slowly, every breath trembling. The image of the man in white refused to fade. His presence had not been loud or forceful, yet it shook me more than any threat, any sermon, any warning I had heard in my entire life. He had looked at me, right into me, with a tenderness so unfamiliar that it terrified me. No imam, no teacher, no relative had ever looked at me that way. Not even my mother. In his eyes I saw something like sorrow, but also hope. As if he knew every broken piece inside me and still wasn't ashamed to stand close. I remembered his voice, calm and steady. Omar. Just my name, but spoken like it meant something holy. And then that invitation, the soft beckoning toward a path I didn't understand, a way of peace I had never known. I pressed my hands against my face, trying to breathe, trying to reason with myself. It had to be a trick of Shaitan, I thought, a deception meant to pull me from the straight path. But if it was Shaitan, why did I feel no fear in the dream? Why did I feel lighter than I had in years? Why did I wake with the echo of love instead of dread? The question swirled until my head hurt. Every lesson I had been taught told me to rebuke the dream, spit it out, bury it deep. But something inside me refused. Instead, I felt a quiet pull, small but persistent, urging me not to forget. I lay back down, staring at the ceiling, my heart still racing. A memory surfaced, me as a child, sitting alone behind the mosque after evening prayers, wondering why God felt so distant even when I obeyed everything. I had pushed that doubt away for decades. Now it returned like an old friend. I turned on my side, shaking, whispering to myself, why me? Why now? But there was no answer, only the quiet certainty that this dream was drawn by the dream. I found myself doing something I never imagined. I searched for the Bible on my phone. Even typing the word Bible felt dangerous, like my fingers were committing a crime my soul wasn't prepared for. But the memory of that man in white, the calm in his eyes, the way he spoke my name as if he'd known me all my life, those things pushed me forward. I downloaded the app quietly, lowering the brightness on my screen, listening for footsteps outside my bedroom door. When it finished installing, my heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. I opened it, expecting lightning to strike me, expecting fear, expecting guilt. But instead, the very first verse I saw was, The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. I froze. It felt like someone had followed me through the shadows and spoken directly into the wound I'd been trying to hide from myself. I whispered, "Brokenhearted, that's me." I kept reading. Jesus talking about rest, mercy, forgiveness, words that didn't threaten me, didn't demand perfection, didn't crush me beneath rules and punishments. They lifted me. They reached into places the Quran never touched. And for the first time in my life, something inside me whispered, "This is what love sounds like." I began looking up passages Muslims said were corrupted, expecting contradictions. But instead, I found beauty. Simple, steady, humble beauty. The kind of truth that didn't scream, but whispered. Curiosity turned into hunger. I started watching a Christian live stream late at night, using a fake username so no one could trace it back to me. People shared dreams just like mine. Visions of a man in white, encounters with Jesus that transformed them. I leaned forward, drinking in every word, feeling less alone each night. But fear always sat beside me. If my family discovered this, it wouldn't just be shame, it could be danger. Still, something pulled me deeper. The truth didn't feel like poison. It felt like water. I was careful, always locking my door, always clearing my tabs, always praying no one would see. But one night, as I set my phone down, a notification lit up my screen, a Bible verse glowing in the dark, and right at that moment, the door opened. My cousin stood there, staring at my phone, his eyes widening in disbelief. When they finally confronted me, it felt like the walls of my childhood were collapsing inward, crushing the air out of my lungs. It started with a knock, sharp, urgent, wrong. My cousin Ahmad stood in the doorway holding my phone like it was a piece of evidence from a crime scene. "Omar," he said, his voice trembling with a mixture of fury and disbelief. "What is this?" Behind him, my mother's eyes were red, swollen, already filled with grief, as if I had died. My uncle pushed in, grabbed my arm, and dragged me to the living room like a criminal being taken for questioning. My phone was thrown onto the table, the screen still lit with the last verse I had read from the Bible app. "Come to me, all you who are weary." My uncle slammed his fist down. "You shame us," he spat. "You play with fire. You read their lies." My mother sobbed, clutching her scarf as if holding onto the only stability she had left. "Ya Ibni, why? What did we do wrong?" I couldn't speak. My throat burned. My body shook uncontrollably. All my life I had feared disappointing them, feared being the reason my mother cried. Now her tears were pouring because of a peace I had only just begun to taste. They fired questions like bullets. "Who taught you this? Did someone convert you? Are you rejecting Allah? Are you betraying your blood, your family, your ancestors?" I tried to explain quietly, gently, but the words died as soon as they left my mouth. "I'm only searching, I just needed answers." My uncle shouted over me, "There is no searching outside of Islam. Apostasy is death. Do you want to bring destruction on this house?" His words stabbed deeper than the threat itself. In that moment, flashes of my childhood flooded back, memorizing Quran verses under pressure, being scolded for asking questions, being told doubt was sinful, being told obedience was the only way to survive. Those memories wrapped around my chest like chains. My cousin leaned forward, eyes sharp. "You choose today," he said, "family or this false path." My mother whispered, "Please, Omar, don't leave us." My heart felt like it was tearing in two. And yet, in the middle of the fear, one strange thought rose inside me like a whisper from somewhere beyond myself. Would Jesus still take me, even now? Then came the words that froze everything around me. Choose, family or Jesus. After that sleepless night, I woke feeling like a man balanced on a thin edge between two worlds. My body was exhausted, but my spirit churned as if I had swallowed a storm. I sat on the edge of the mattress, holding my head in my hands, hearing my family's voices from the night before. Anger, pleading, humiliation, threats. They kept telling me I was being deceived, that I was throwing away generations of honor, that I was allowing Shaitan to ruin me. But inside, something else had taken root. Something softer than fear, yet stronger than any command I had ever obeyed. I felt peace rising through the cracks of my pain, quiet and persistent, I whispered, "Ya Isa, if you are real, help me stand." When I stepped into the living room, every eye turned toward me. My uncle folded his arms like a judge waiting for a confession. My mother clutched her scarf, eyes swollen from crying. My brother stared as though I were already dead. No greeting, no warmth, only expectation. My uncle spoke first. "Have you repented of this madness?" His tone carried the weight of punishment, but my heart no longer bowed to fear. I swallowed hard and felt my pulse thundering in my neck. I can't deny what I've seen. I can't deny the peace I felt. I believe in Jesus. The room erupted. My mother gasped as if stabbed. My brother cursed under his breath. My uncle slammed his fist on the table and shouted that I was choosing disgrace, that I was choosing hell. But their fury washed over me like waves hitting a rock already anchored. I felt pain, yes, deep pain, but not regret. For the first time in my life I spoke without trembling. "I'm not rejecting you. I'm choosing truth." My uncle pointed at the door and told me to get out before I infected the house with my corruption. My mother begged me to say it was a phase, a mistake, anything. But I couldn't seal my soul back into the cage it had escaped. I stood, blinking back tears, whispered that I loved them, and walked out with nothing but the clothes on my back and the strange, steady calm in my chest. I stepped forward, trembling, yet certain this narrow road would become the place my soul finally breathed again. The Imam summoned me to the mosque just after Maghrib, his voice clipped with authority that reached straight into my chest and tightened every breath. And even though a part of me wanted to run, I forced myself to walk there, because hiding would only delay the storm waiting for me. The courtyard felt colder than usual, the marble beneath my feet almost accusing, as if it remembered every prayer I had offered in fear instead of faith. When I entered his office, he didn't stand or greet me. He simply stared with eyes that felt like blades, sharp enough to cut through every fragile piece of confidence I had tried to gather. He pointed to the chair and I sat, my legs trembling as though they were carrying the weight of two lives, the old one I had abandoned and the new one I still barely understood. He leaned forward and said quietly, "Your family tells me troubling things," and the way his voice wrapped around those words made my throat tighten. I wanted to defend myself, but before I could speak, he continued, accusing me of betrayal, dishonor, deception, and spiritual corruption, each word hitting me harder than the last because I knew exactly what this confrontation meant. He reminded me of the punishments for apostasy and described them in slow detail, watching my face for fear, waiting for me to break. For a moment I felt 14 again, standing before him after failing to memorize a surah, desperate to please and terrified to disappoint. But that boy was gone, and the man sitting here now carried something deeper than fear. I remembered the man in white, the peace in his eyes, the voice that called my name with love instead of control, and that memory steadied me more than anything I had ever known. The Imam noticed my silence and mistook it for surrender, saying I should repent, return, apologize, and bury these dangerous thoughts before they ruined everything. But when I finally spoke, my voice surprised even me, steady, despite the shaking in my hands, as I told him I had found truth, peace, and love in a place he did not believe existed. His expression hardened and he dismissed me with a cold warning, making it clear my life would never be the same. As I walked out of the mosque into the night breeze, I understood that choosing Jesus meant losing everything I had once called home, or so I thought. I left my uncle's house with a plastic bag of clothes, a dying phone, and a heart cracked open in ways I didn't know were possible. Every step away from that door felt like tearing something alive out of me, because no matter how harsh they had been, they were still my family, the people who shaped me, the ones I had prayed beside since childhood. The streetlight above flickered as if unsure whether to illuminate my path or leave me in darkness, and for a moment I wondered if I had made the biggest mistake of my life. I walked without direction, without plan, letting my feet carry me through familiar streets that no longer felt like home. Each breath felt heavy, each sound sharper, as if the whole world was watching the apostate stumble into the unknown. My phone finally died, and with it vanished the last illusion of safety. I sat on a bench near the bus station, hugging my bag to my chest, trying to steady my thoughts while fear circled me like a predator. I whispered, "Jesus, if you are truly with me, I need you now." I didn't expect an answer, but the moment the words left my mouth, a strange calm washed over me, not loud or dramatic, just present. Minutes later, a man approached me, someone I vaguely recognized from years ago. He asked if I was okay, and for the first time in my life, I didn't lie. I told him I had nowhere to go. He hesitated, then invited me to stay with a small group of believers who met quietly in his cousin's home. Fear told me it was a trap, but peace nudged me forward. When I entered that tiny apartment, I felt warmth before anyone even spoke. They didn't question my past or demand explanations. They simply welcomed me, prayed over me, and fed me as though I had always belonged. One older woman placed her hand on my shoulder and said, "You are safe here, son." Those words shattered something in me, and I cried freely, without shame, without fear, for the first time in decades. In their kindness, I saw the reflection of the man in white, and slowly the pieces of my heart began to knit themselves back together. New beginnings. I woke up that morning with a strange stillness in my chest, a kind of quiet I hadn't known in years. The chaos of the past months felt distant, softened by the steady rhythm of prayer and the warmth of the small fellowship that had become my home. I was sweeping the little church room when my phone buzzed with a name I never expected to see again. My wife. My breath caught. For a moment I just stared, afraid to open it, afraid of whatever memories or accusations might come spilling out. But when I finally tapped the message, it wasn't anger waiting for me. It was brokenness. She wrote that life with the prince had not been the paradise she imagined. The wealth, the gifts, the promises of comfort had dissolved into control, coldness, and emptiness. She said she watched a video someone shared of my baptism, and what stunned her wasn't the act itself, but the peace on my face. She asked how a man who lost everything could look so free. I sat on the edge of the bed, shaking, overwhelmed by a sadness that wasn't painful anymore, just human. I told her the truth. I told her it wasn't strength, it wasn't discipline, it wasn't revenge or pride. It was Jesus. I told her how he met me in the darkest place of my life, how he lifted the shame off me like a heavy cloak, how he whispered that I was loved when everyone else said I was worthless. I didn't preach. I didn't blame her. I simply told her what he did for me. She replied with one sentence that I will never forget. "I want to know him too." Tears slid down my face, not because I wanted her back, but because God was writing a redemption story bigger than my pain. That night I prayed for her, not as my wife, but as a soul searching for the same freedom I found. And as I prayed, I realized something. Jesus had turned the wound that once destroyed me into the testimony that now gave life. If you're listening to my story right now, wherever you are, I want you to know the same Jesus who met me can meet you. He sees you, he loves you, and he can rebuild what you thought was lost forever. This hope is for you.